I want to tell you the number one lie that all direct sales, MLM, network marketing companies tell you. They tell you that you own your own business. That's a lie. My name is Natalie Hodson, and I teach people how to build and scale their own online businesses using their passions, hobbies, life experiences. But before that, I was involved in direct sales for a very long time. And so I know this space really, really well. And I wanted to come on and make a video talking about, kind of want to tell some stories and talk about my experience that I had while I was in direct sales. I'm not against direct sales. I actually am really grateful for the time I spent in direct sales because it kind of gave me that taste for entrepreneurship that I probably needed in order to continue to build my own business. But I wanted to talk to those of you guys specifically who are in that space, not to say that direct sales are bad or MLMs, nothing like that. I had a really good experience the years that I was doing that. But I wanted to maybe hopefully open your eyes a little bit and give you some insight into the journey that I went along and what I learned during that time. So let me kind of start by going back in time, telling you guys a little story, giving you some insight into my background and how I got to where I'm at today. Let's rewind, I don't know, my son's 12 now. So I went to college, I got my degree after my husband at the time was in grad school. So I was working at corporate while he was in grad school. And then after he graduated, he got a job working for a big oil company. So we moved to Washington, D.C. And during that time, I found out I was expecting my first baby. And I was so happy, but I also was 2,500 miles away from any family. And we were in a new town, I didn't know anybody. And I was kind of conflicted on I have my degree, I'm well educated. Do I want to go back to school or do I want to stay home and raise my babies? And so my son was born, he was a 10-pound baby. My belly was way out here. And I had him, and the idea of putting my little newborn baby in daycare was crushing to me. It was crushing. Plus, we lived in Washington, D.C. at that time, so living expenses were really high. The cost of daycare was really high. And my degree was in history, so I didn't have a ton of options as to for using my history degree. And I had been in sales after post-college, and I'd done well with that, but I wasn't really sure exactly what I wanted to do. So during that time, my aunt was working for a direct sales company, and people call it different things. Now people are calling social selling, MLMs, direct sales. They're all kind of the same thing. They all have slight nuances, but they're all basically the same thing. And I saw that she was doing it and doing well, and I was like, you know what, maybe I can try this for a while. And I thought, if I can try this and do really well at it, then I can work from home and I won't have to put my baby in daycare. And so I signed up, and I remember during that time, I gave myself a deadline and I said, okay, Natalie, if you're not making the equivalent of what you could make as a full-time income in 6 months, then you're gonna have to go back to work. And I'm really glad I did that actually, because for me, my why was being able to be home with my son. And so, but we also, at that time in our lives, we were $170,000 in student loan debt. So our student loan payments, it's one of those things that people never tell you when you go to college, right? You're like, oh yeah, we're just gonna take out loans to pay for school. And then you get done and you're like, oh my gosh, this is bearing us alive. Even though my husband at the time had a really good job, we lived in DC, so we lived in this tiny townhome, but our rent was crazy expensive. And then we had our student loan payment, I think, was somewhere between $2,000 and $2,500 a month. I mean, it was insane. I was like, okay, I have to figure out how to bring extra income or else we're gonna be slaves to this debt forever. So I started this direct sales company and I said, okay, 6 months, that's what I'm gonna give myself. And I looked at the comp plan, and I had never done anything like this before, but I was like, I'm gonna treat this like a real business. And I remember, because my husband at the time was fresh out of grad school, so he was in that mindset. So I remember he had me sit down every quarter and present to him like I was going to present to a board of directors, and I had to make spreadsheets and profit loss statements and projections and all that kind of stuff, which is kind of funny. But I did really well with the company. I moved up, I got promoted really quickly. I was making good money. I liked the flexibility that I had. And I was selling, scented wax and warmers. And I'll tell you, there was no falling out with the company. I left on really good terms. I still have a ton of respect for the people that I knew in that company. So I just want to mention that. There's no bad feelings or anything like that. And like I said, I'm glad that I had that experience, because had I not had that experience, I'm not sure that I would have, my eyes would have been open to entrepreneurship, right? And it was a really low entry way to get into that space. I think my initial investment was $100 or $200 or something. But here's the thing is, and I'll be honest, I believed this at the time too. I was like, wow, I get to run my own business. I had created an LLC. I was running the expenses through. I was putting my revenue into the company. And the owners of the company would, and I think most MLMs operate this way, where they make you feel like you have freedom, that you're running your own business. And to some extent, like I said earlier, you are, right? You have control over the amount of time that you put into it. You have control potentially over the income that you make, depending on how many units you sell or how big you're able to build your team. But I realized over time, one of two things could happen. Now, I've actually read the fine print if you're in this space and your policies and procedure, like when you sign up to be a consultant, there's a lot of fine print. And the truth is that if you break one of the rules of your company, at any time, the company can decide to pull you as a consultant. Like they can say, all right, well, we're not happy with you because you're doing this, or you're doing that, or you're doing this, or you're saying the wrong thing on social media, or fill in the blank, right? Whatever it is. And they can just decide, we're going to revoke your ability to be a consultant. So you can work for years and years and years and build this amazing income and downline. And if you do something wrong, that can be taken from you. Now, of course, could you fight it? Yeah, but you're going to face all these attorney fees and legal bills. And so although that never happened to me, I did see it happen to some people. And that was always a worry in the back of my head that what if that happened to me? I'm putting in all this time and energy and effort. And what if I lost that because of either I made a mistake or there was a miscommunication or, whatever the situation was. So I was always kind of worried about that. And then on the flip side of that, I also started to realize this really isn't my company that I own, because if the owners of the company make a bad decision, the company can go under. And honestly, it's probably a number of bad decisions that would lead to that. But we've been seeing that recently, that there's a lot of direct sales, MLMs, network marketing companies that go under. And all of a sudden they decide to file for bankruptcy and all the consultants are SOL, right? And so that was something I always had in the back of my head too, of like, and thankfully that company I was with is still here, they're still thriving. And like I said, nothing bad to say about that company at all. I don't want that to be like the impression of this video, but that was a fear, right? Like we always think that the company we work for is super stable, but that could go away. And then this identity that you've built as a rep for this company, probably your livelihood, your friends, like the things that have built as part of your identity can go away pretty quickly. Usually they aren't like telling their consultants, hey, we might be going under, because that would cause like mass frenzy, right? And so I started to realize, okay, hold on, Natalie. I need to make sure that I have like a backup plan, that I have another revenue stream or income stream coming in that I have 100% control of. Because at the end of the day, I don't think this is going away, but if it ever did, at least for me, that alleviates a lot of my anxiety when I know there's a plan B. And so that's what I did. I started, and I always say, I really didn't have a master plan when I was going into it. I kind of stumbled into the online space, building my own space, but I kind of started in the fitness space. I just had a baby, I had gained a ton of weight, and I was just trying to document my journey along the way. And I started getting traffic to my website. I was, back in the day, this was when Pinterest was not what it is now. I like to cook, so I was making traditionally unhealthy meals healthy, and I was taking pictures with my flip phone back then, and I was posting it on Pinterest, and the pictures were not good, but it was working, and people were coming to my website to look at my recipes. And I started realizing if I'm getting all this traffic just means people. It's like I probably should try to figure out how to monetize this. And that's when I just really geeked out on internet marketing, and I just started self-studying and teaching myself. Now, I would not recommend trying and erroring it like I did and trying to self-study and going at it alone. It took me a long time to figure this out. I would recommend finding somebody else who can point you in the right direction. But I started learning about internet marketing, and I started realizing, okay, hold on a second. If I can start to build my own email list, that's something that I own, right? It's not something that the company I work for owns that email list. Like if I were to lose my ability to be a consultant, all my customers would be on that email list that I've been regularly emailing with that company, and I wouldn't be able to communicate with them anymore. And so I started realizing, okay, I need to build my own email list, because once I have my own list of people who I've helped, I've served, I've given them value, they want to hear from me, then if I were to create my own product that I could sell online, then I could market it to that list. And so that's what I did. So I figured out how to write an ebook. Back in the day, I didn't know what I know now, and so I was figuring it out, and I had to hire a designer, and it was kind of a hard process. It's not, the way we do it now is not hard, but back then I was just trying to figure this out all on my own. And I did, and I started collecting email addresses. And back then I didn't understand how valuable email addresses are, but they really are, because nobody can take that from you unless your email, people just get annoyed with you, or your emails suck and they want to unsubscribe. Of course, that's an option. But as long as you're providing good value and content to your audience base, then people will want to stay on your email list. And as long as you continually communicate with them and nurture that list, then if you create a product, then you have a perfect audience to sell that product to. Right? And so then I started thinking, well, what kind of product would I sell? I had nothing to sell, right? I started building this list, I had nothing to sell. And I was like, well, I could try selling physical products, but I had no cash to like put money up front. I didn't want to I had 2 little babies at the time. I don't want to like drive to the post office and ship things. I've done that and it was not fun. And I was like, well, what about digital products? And that's a whole nother story for another day, how I like figured out what digital products were. But I started understanding that digital products, which I didn't even know what that phrase meant back then, but that meant ebooks, membership sites, courses, paid challenges, things that people pay and that get delivered digitally. So you don't have to deal with shipping, you don't have to deal with physical product, you don't have to worry about supply chain issues and not being able to get your shipments in. Everything is delivered digitally and online. So literally somebody can buy something from you with a click of a button anywhere. You're no longer limited to like the location that you live, and you can deliver that instantly through email, through PDF deliverable or an online login. And I was like, oh my gosh, this is the thing that's gonna allow me to no longer have to trade my time for money anymore. And so what happened is, for a while, I was trying to juggle both. I was still working in direct sales and I was also doing my thing over here. And I just started that based off of something I wasn't an expert on fitness. I wasn't even a trainer at that time. I just enjoyed it. So I decided to create an online digital product around it. And I was trying to do both at the same time. But that was really hard because I wasn't able to really give my full attention to either. So I ended up getting out of that direct sales business altogether. Even though I was at their highest leadership position in the company, I saw that my potential over here was so much bigger because all of a sudden I was able to have 100% control over the way that my products were presented, over the way that I communicated with my customers, over the way that the business was operated and ran. And I didn't have to have that anxiety in the back of my head of, could somebody take this from me at any time? Could the company go under at any time? Now, could the company go under if I made bad decisions? Sure, but I had control over that, so it no longer created that anxiety inside of me. And so I ended up phasing out of the direct sales business altogether, and then I just doubled down on my own business. And I'll tell you, the revenue that I generate from the sales that I sell inside my own company is so much more, 1, satisfying, 2, rewarding, 3, profitable than anything I was doing back in the direct sales days, because it was mine. I owned it, and I was able to create a product that I loved, that I was passionate about, and that genuinely helped other people. And my profit margins were way better than any comp plan of any direct sales company that I've ever seen. And so I just want to share this with you guys, because if you are in direct sales, maybe you're feeling a little bit burned out, right? I know for me, I love the people, the women that I worked with. I just got burned out of selling scented wax and wormers. And I remember I used to set up booths at craft fairs, and I'd have to wake up at the crack of dawn when I was pregnant or have a baby strapped to my chest, and I'd have these big totes of all my products that I'd have to pre-buy up front and then hopefully sell them at the craft fairs. And I'd be on my feet all day and trying to, sell my thing, and it was a lot of work. And I was good at it. I got promoted really quickly inside the company, but I didn't love it, right? I liked it, and I loved the people I worked with, but I just wasn't passionate about that product. But if I could create my own product, something that I loved, that literally, when I closed my eyes every day, I was like, what's the thing that brings you joy? If you had no interruptions from everything else in your life that you could just do yourself, what would that be? I got to choose what kind of products I wanted to create, what kind of people I wanted to help. And it was really, really satisfying and rewarding, and radically changed my whole entire life. Truly, I mean that. Now, that isn't to say that it was easy. There were a lot of bumps in the road. There was a lot of learning I had to do. I had to invest in a ton of mentors in order to figure the whole online marketing game out. And that's actually why I do what I do now, is because I don't want other people to have this steep learning curve that I did. I do this channel, I have the programs that I have, I give all the free resources that we do. We have our blog, our email list now that we give tons of good value, because if you're anything like me, like I was 10 years ago, I remember feeling kind of aimless. Is this really what I want to do with my life? I knew the answer was no, but I didn't know what I was going to replace that with. And once I figured this out, it was like 2 puzzle pieces connecting together, and I was like, hey, this is where I'm supposed to be. This is what I want to do. And now that has changed, the types of products I've sold over the years has changed a lot. I started in fitness, and then I did some cookbooks, and then I did mindset stuff, and now my love and passion is on helping other people build businesses. And that's okay. Your niche and your space can totally change over the years. But the difference was, it was mine. It was something I had control over, and it was something that nobody could take away from me at the end of the day. I just wanted to share with you, because if you're in that space, if you're in the MLM direct marketing, network marketing space, and if you're kind of worried like I was that is this really my own business that I actually own? And could this be taken away from me, or could the company go under? And if that is something you're worried about, I wanted to give you some hope and let you know there are other options out there. You can create online digital products, even if you have zero social media following. You're not techie, I'm not. You're not an expert in marketing. There's ways that you can do this and figure this out, where you can bring in income for your family and radically change a lot of people's lives by helping them through something that you might have struggled with in the past. I hope that was helpful for you. If you are in direct sales, let me know. Leave a comment here in the chat. And if you have any additional questions, I'm more than happy to talk more on this topic, because I know for me, I think back to that time in my life when I was in that space. I just didn't know that there were other options. And if I can help you guys see that you don't have to hate what you're doing right now, but what if you could stabilize the financial position you're in right now by having multiple income streams? So if you want to keep doing your direct sales, awesome, keep doing that. You can create online digital products that can be a second income stream that honestly, the two can work together, right? You can create online digital products that have to do with whatever product you're selling in the direct sales company, and you can intertwine those two together if you want. If you don't want to, you don't have to either. So any questions, put them in the comments, and I hope to see you in the next video.